identify plants. That's great. I think it's really nice to be able to just know the names of the plants around you. There's kind of two general approaches, I think, to learning plants. And one is you go out into the field like this and bring a plant back, look it up in books, look it up on the internet, and figure out what it is. The other one is you can study at home in internet and books, and then go out in the field and see if you can identify or find the plants that you're looking for. Either approach is great. I think either way you need both. You need some time in the field, you need some time in books, watching videos, and that's what I hope to do in this series of videos, is to give you at least an organizational structure for figuring out how do I go about identifying plants. There's a lot of technical details about it. I'm trained as a plant taxonomist, so that's kind of my approach, but I want to keep this pretty non-technical. I don't want to introduce lots and lots of terminology, but we're going to have to look at plants kind of like we look at people. We're really good at recognizing people by their faces, even some of their body language, but plants are just completely different. So we need a new set of terms, a new set of just aspects to look at to figure out what is what. So my approach is going to be to go family by family. It's kind of a classic plant taxonomy approach. It has its advantages and disadvantages. You know, we could look at flower color, but that doesn't work for non-flowering plants. We could look at trees versus herbs. That kind of works as well. Actually, a great place to start is just learning the trees. There's not tons of them, so it's a nice kind of smaller world to start with. I'll focus mostly on plants from eastern Washington state, and I will focus more on the common ones. We're not going to look at rare plants or try to identify every single one. Things that are accessible. We're not going to try to wade our way through different sedges or grasses or mosses. Really just kind of the big stuff around you. Great place to start, and you can always go deeper from there. One of the first things to ask yourself when you are trying to identify plants is, where am I? Geographically speaking and habitat-wise. So we're getting near Chinook Pass, and so that means we're still on the eastern side of Washington State. It's in a coniferous forest, obviously, and a pretty wet one at that. These aren't ponderosa pine trees with grasses and all spread out. It's not real dry. So that's going to really kind of limit the number of plants that we would even consider in terms of what might be around here. I'm not expecting much antelope brush or sagebrush or things like that. I'm going to be looking at coniferous forest species. And that really limits your world a lot and makes things a lot easier. So after you have your list kind of narrowed down in terms of where you are and what plants might be there, obviously the next thing to ask is, what does the plant look like? I mean, these right behind me are broadleaf plants. They're flowering plants. They're not the conifers like you see in the background. Those characteristics are important. For that, there's a variety of terms, and I don't want to go over them now. There's another video that I'll post a link to that you can use to learn about some of those main characteristics that are kind of universal that you look for in plants. But the rest of the kind of family by family videos, I'm going to go through some of those features and just introduce them as you need them, so hopefully you can learn them over time. But if you want just kind of a big overview, then feel free to take a look at that other video.